The United States has been the top destination for international migrants since at least 1960. The Department of Homeland Security has previously estimated that the total immigrant population in 2016 was likely 45.6 million, which represents more than 14% of the U.S. population. Despite its long history of immigration, the United States has oscillated between perceiving immigration as a valuable resource and as a major challenge. The Trump administration has further raised the issue in political and public debates. Since President Donald Trump took office, his administration has made dramatic changes to the United States immigration policy through granting fewer visas, ordering the removal of hundreds of thousands of legal residents whose home countries have been hit by war and natural disasters, and pushed Congress to pass laws to forcefully alter the entire legal immigration system. Recent college graduates are allowed to remain in the U.S. if they have applied for H-1B employment visas, but they are no longer allowed to work while their applications are pending, likely making it difficult to afford to stay in America. Legal immigrants and their attorneys say they are facing unprecedented challenges to come to and stay in the United States under the Trump administration.
What options are available for people from different countries to legally immigrate to America and work here under Trump's immigration policy? Today, we invite an immigration attorney, Tracy Taylor, who is acutely familiar with business, culture, legal, and regulatory requirements on a global level, providing a unique international perspective. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you for having me, Julia.
Thank you. So what's your insight on the new administration's immigration policy?
Well, I think we've seen a shift from the old administration to the Trump administration. And it all spawned with Trump's executive order, Buy American, Hire American. And from that, we're seeing the more emphasis being placed on employment-based immigrant visas, higher scrutiny. It definitely has those abroad concerned and worried, and it makes our jobs as an attorneys a little bit more difficult, but certainly still possible.
I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
How has the process changed with the new administration?
Well, we're seeing since this executive order came out in April of 2017, we're seeing a struggle between preserving American jobs and allowing foreign nationals to come to the United States to work. We're seeing heightened scrutiny with H-1B. In the future, I look for changes for a definition of specialized occupations. I look for that to change. I also could see in the future them eliminating foreign nationals that only have a bachelor's degree and requiring a master's degree for those foreign nationals. There's several other policy changes that have made it a little bit more challenging to immigrate here. One being a change for when you file an immigrant petition. Previously, they would graciously issue a request for evidence notice when additional evidence was needed, or when they needed, USCIS needed clarification on a particular issue. This summer, July, they issued a policy memorandum which changed the discretion of the USCIS officers, and no longer do they have to issue this request for evidence notice, but instead can use their discretion to right away deny an immigrant petition.
That means people with higher education, they're easier to immigrate here.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I don't want to deter those that don't have masters. There's still viable means to come here. And be it you're seeking a non-immigrant visa or an immigrant visa, my job as an attorney, and I travel to China frequently, is to advise people of the most viable options given our current immigration climate.
Under this new immigration policy, how do we work with those boundaries?
Well, for one, securing competent counsel who has experience in dealing with immigration issues. Because it's really important that your attorney know, they're scrupulous, they go over the petition, they know the evidence that's needed, because the evidence has changed, the evidentiary requirements.
Right.
What they used to be even 2 years ago.
Doesn't work right now.
No, it's much more rigorous.
Right.
And then also understanding what immigration classifications are being squeezed at present, and which ones remain unscathed. So that's what we do. Right now, if you don't mind me giving you some of the most viable options.
Yes.
If you're looking to come to the United States to immigrate here permanently,
Right.
green card.
Yes.
Right now, EB-1A, those are for extraordinary aliens that have extraordinary ability.
Like.
There's no education requirements for this type of immigrant visa, but you're a professor who has published a lot in your field. You have articles published in renowned journals, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are certain criteria. There's 10, actually, that the foreign national can attempt to meet. Maybe you are an athlete or an artist. You're in business. Various fields, science, technology. Well, you must show that you have extraordinary ability in that given field. And so you can do this by meeting 3 of the 10 regulatory criteria. Maybe you have media exposure for the work you've done. You've served as a judge of the work of others in your field. Other options are you're making high salary, high remuneration as compared to all other engineers in your field. So we use that. That's a very viable option right now. The visa bulletin, the backlogs on immigrant visas is always important to keep up to date with. And so for China mainland, that is probably the most viable way to achieve a green card, the EB-1A. Now, if you think, well, that seems, they're the creme de la creme, the very best in their field, and I don't think, I'm fresh out of graduating from the university. I don't think I've achieved that level. Don't worry, we'll have another option. It's a lesser showing, and that is the second preference, what we refer to as an EB-2. Without going through labor certification. You don't need a U.S. employer for the EB-1 or the EB-2 with a great secret if you couple it with a request for a national interest waiver.
Is EB-2 only limited to certain countries?
No, it's available to everyone. Slight backlog, nothing major. We're not looking at 5 to 10 years on that. And so this is another viable option for anyone that's abroad looking to come and obtain a green card. It does require certain things, but again, it's not as high of showing as that EB-1A that I just discussed briefly. And for more information, I mean, certainly we can provide any of the viewers with that.
That's great, and give some immigrants new hopes.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
This is AMAP View. I am Julia. We are talking about the evolution of the immigration process and updated solution applied. So Tracy, under the new immigration policy, which country right now is the easiest one to immigrate from to the U.S.?
Well, I don't look at it in terms of which one is the easiest or most difficult. I mean, certainly we do consult what's called the Visa Bulletin. That is your place in line for a green card. So you can file your petition, your immigrant petition if you're seeking a green card. And that priority date will hold your place in line. However, even if you receive an approval on your I-140 petition, a green card may not be readily available. And so we always consult the visa bulletin, which comes out a little bit before the 1st of each month. And on there, nations are listed, and if there's a backlog, it will certainly be indicated. And so, you know, someone coming from countries that are current on the visa bulletin, as soon as they get their approval, they obtain their green card right away. And while we're looking at mainland China and India, I mean, it's a little bit different because we have so many people applying for legal permanent residency that we do have a slight backlog, but under the EB-1A and EB-2 categories, it's really nothing to fret about.
Compared to the rest of the world, how difficult it is for the Mexican and the Asian, let's say China, for them to immigrate to the U.S. These two, the largest immigrants group.
And
Right.
India.
And India.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Okay.
And if we're looking at business immigration, which is primarily all I handle, business, employment-based immigration.
Right.
When we're looking in terms of that, I mean, it's only a little bit more difficult due to the delay in receiving your green card. That's really what it boils down to. And so EB-5, you know, we had a boom with EB-5. Everybody was jumping on board.
It's still working very well, EB-5?
There's still EB-5 projects. Unfortunately, the backlog, you know, it's going to take some time before those investors receive their green cards. And so what we find is some frustration
Right.
amongst those in mainland China, and they're looking for other avenues to obtain the green card quickly. And so that's why they're turning to us. EB-1C is also, I don't want to leave that out, EB-1C is also another viable pathway to achieve a green card. And so we have received a lot of interest. When I go to Beijing and Shanghai to present, we receive a lot of interest on EB-1C also. That's for executives and managers of corporations.
So under the current immigration policy, the EB-1C right now is more popular than EB-5.
Yes.
In spite of this current tough immigration policy, I'm sure you have some success story to share with us.
Oh, I have several.
Yeah.
And understand that even though we have new policies that are issued, and the Immigration Nationality Act, the INA as we refer to it, is being read a little bit differently under this new administration. And things have become stringent. It has not deterred those that truly want to emigrate here and start a life from proceeding. And, you know, in spite of all of the changes, we have been quite successful. One individual that I'm very proud, you know, I felt personally invested in this case, started from the beginning. It was a gentleman who graduated with his master's degree in architecture and historical preservation. And he had worked on several projects around the world, and I thought, wow, I'm interested in his work. So certainly a USCIS officer will be given all the evidence and the petition. And we submitted it, and I thought, well, it'll be approved. And sadly, it was denied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because?
The officer dinged him on one particular prong. But you know, the beauty of this is, in the rare instance you do receive a denial, you can turn around and you can petition again without any prejudice being held against you. And so,
how many times can we?
There's no limit.
Okay.
Yeah, with the employment base, there's no limit and no prejudice held on the subsequent filing.
Good.
So that's nice.
Yes.
And no waiting period before you file again. And so with this particular client, I said, I don't know what to say. I think, there was some subjectivity because clearly we had everything in place. And so we agreed to proceed with the subsequent filing. And we received his approval and right away. So I don't know what was going on there the first time, but in receiving his approval, he graduated with his master's he was a student in the United States, and he was in Florida. And now, if you are filing from within the United States for a green card, when you file your I-45, everyone's subjected to a mandatory interview, green card interview, at the local USCIS field office. So he was nervous and he asked me to fly to Florida to attend that with him. And I did, and I got to meet his spouse and their children who were born here in the US and are citizens. And, they expressed their concern. The children were U.S. citizens, obviously acclimated in elementary school and preschool. And if he had not received that approval, it would be no big deal for him and his spouse to return to their home country. But for the children, what a burden. And so meeting his wife and children and attending that interview was so nice. And then a week later, they had their green cards approved. So when I do that for someone who really brings to the United States their expertise, their education, they're going to start a business here and help the economy, I truly, am fulfilled.
Thank you, Tracy, for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
This is AMAP View. I am Julia. In our next segment, we will discuss what international parents should consider when choosing a good boarding school or a college. Most immigrants come to the United States for the future of their kids because they still think the U.S. education system is the best in the world. Even before starting the immigration process, they were planning on sending their kids to a boarding school in America. Today, we're very pleased to be joined by a college career strategist, Elizabeth Venturini. What are her valuable suggestions for selecting the right boarding schools and colleges? Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Julia. It's a pleasure to be here.
As an expert, what's your suggestion for those international parents? What should they consider to select a good boarding school or a college?
Good question, Julia. I work with parents all over the United States and internationally. And I have found that parents, no matter where they're from, the number one thing they do want is for their child to have a happy boarding school or college experience. So let me start with your first question regarding the boarding school and give you some suggestions, or for parents out there who are listening in. 3 things. The first one, start early. Second, make sure that there is a good fit between the boarding school and your child. And third, do not get caught up in brand names. So let me elaborate that a little bit on the first one. Starting off early.
How early it is?
How early? At least 18 months. Before your child is actually enrolled in the school.
Okay.
There are so many things that you need to be looking at and that need to be done prior to that child being enrolled. For example, there's all the research on the schools. You have to know something about the administration of the school, the faculty, the admissions requirements, cost, are there any religious considerations, cultural considerations, and location. So that's key right there. Second, when it comes to boarding school fit, okay, again, you have to make sure there is an academic fit, a social fit, and a financial fit for you. When it comes to the academic fit, if your student is struggling with certain subjects where you have to constantly have them working with tutors, you may want to reconsider whether they should be going to a school that is very highly intensive when it comes to academics. When it comes to the social fit, you want to make sure that there are going to be the right activities that your child is going to be involved with.
Right.
And then when it comes to financial fit for mom and dad, that's all over the place. I mean, the lowest as far as boarding schools can run anywhere between $30,000 to possibly $70,000 per year. And that's a lot of money. So you want to make sure that this is something that you can afford for 3 to 4 years.
Right. So most overseas parents would ask how my teens can go to a highly prestigious boarding school and a college.
Okay. Well, the requirements for those are both a little bit different, Julia. For a boarding school, as I said, you need to be working at least 18 months out.
Yes.
And I think the thing that would help a student get in the most is making sure that they have a very good command of English, which means you have to start working with your son or daughter at a young age.
Right.
That is the thing that will help them the most.
What if they have a very limited English skills before they come to the United States?
Then I would
boarding
be
school, yeah.
Yes, then I would be checking with that school to find out before they come to the United States or when they arrive if that school provides an English immersion class to get your son or daughter up to speed quickly.
Okay, that would be helpful. What is more important, the reputation of the university or the department of the major?
I think the department of the major is the most important thing. Just because you're going to a highly prestigious school does not mean that they have a department that specializes in a particular subject that your son or daughter is interested in.
USC, the media, the major, it's very famous.
Yes.
Compared to UC Berkeley, probably better. However, most of students still would like to choose UC Berkeley. How would you like to suggest them in this situation?
The things that I tell parents when it comes down to that question, I tell them you need to look and see who the school is aligned with when it comes to potential companies, internships, the teachers, and where they rank. Where does the program rank in the industry? If that's, for example, you give the example with media. If that is what they were looking at, those are the things that should be of most importance to parents and the students, not the name of the school. Again, just because a school has a great name overall does not mean the department is well known out in the field. And the reality is most of the parents are paying for college so their son or daughter can have a very good career once they leave.
What should we look for in selecting a college career strategist?
Someone like me, someone who has the experience working with students with many different schools. And it also helps if they have professional work experience because they know what employers are looking for. Those are the two key things that I think. And also, do they have a good track record? Working with parents, working with kids. Those are all of the important things that mothers and fathers should be looking at when it comes to working with someone who's going to help them place their son or daughter in a college or a university.
Good. A question for both of you.
Sure.
Should we start applying for college or boarding school before immigration process or better after?
Well, you know, I had no idea it took that long, Elizabeth. So you said 18 months?
Right.
You better get on it at least 18 months ahead of time.
Yes.
So what I would say then, if we want to time it just right for immigration purposes and a smooth transition, do preliminary research and perhaps go ahead and get with someone such as yourself and be exploring that option at the simultaneously filing your immigrant petition for a green card. Because I think, you know, by the time you would go through the entire process, the immigration process, it would align well with for their children.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Apply for it.
Yeah.
What do you think? You
I
agree?
think she's spot
Yeah.
on with that.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's good. So I can definitely see both of you working together, not only helping immigrants become a citizen here, but also paving a way for them having a superior educational experience. Thank you for both of you sharing your knowledge, experience with us and our audience.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Julie.
We always want to have some fun at the end of the show. Today, what we're going to do is to drink the juice without straws and our hands.
Fun.
We're on.
Fun.
Let's do it.
Ready, get set, go!